This is the Final Word Ashes Daily, day 3 at Lord's. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins. We're inside, which gives you a hint that the end of the day involved rain. But not all of the day involved rain. The start of the day involved cricket, and you're going to tell us about that in the space of 30 seconds.
More extra, less ordinary. Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City. It did. There was 6 for 47 this morning. Would you believe it? England blew it again. They had a chance to really punish Australia's bowlers, but they just temperamentally are not disposed to doing it. Harry Brook holing out for 50 was the symbol of the chaos. They were all out for 325, which meant Australia took a 91-run lead into the second dig. They're 2 for 130 at the close, which means they're ahead by 2-2-1. Khawaja already a 58 not out. He's faced over 750 balls in the series.
Oops, I blew it again. I've made a new style because I'm saving Test cricket somehow. The Harry Brook dismissal. I'm not going to be hyperbolic. I'm not going to say it's the stupidest dismissal I've ever seen. I'm going to say it's in the top rank of stupid dismissals. There are many that have been maybe as stupid, but this one was right up there in terms of like the number of times yesterday that Harry Brook does the back away, jump 2 feet out, side leg stump and try to kind of line drive baseball style, and got one of them to the boundary, I think, and didn't really connect with most of them, and got a couple of singles here and there. And then this morning he plays the same shot again, edges it into the ground, doesn't work. 2 balls later, same again, smacks it straight to Cummins at cover. Now, I'm not saying you can't play attacking shots. I'm not saying you can't be aggressive, be proactive, take the game on, run towards the danger, do all the things. But when you are playing the lowest percentage, highest risk option to a delivery, there is a reason that people don't do that. There's a reason that people haven't played that way, because it doesn't work. And
England's bowling coach, Jeetan Patel, was fronted to do media today, which is quite funny, isn't it? The spin bowling coach for England when they're not playing a spinner. Probably says a little bit about the way they've gone. But he just flatly... I would have loved some candour after playing, saying, yeah, we didn't get it all right today, but it's the when you talk about hyperbolic, that's what it feels like. It's over the top. It's the way they explain away what happened. Ben Duckett yesterday saying, I should just hit it for 6 when he was out for 98 off the top edge. It's like every night we're hearing justification for... It's like they're telling us that none of us know anything about cricket. They're the only people who know anything about anything, and everyone should just piss off and leave them alone. How about like realising there is more than one way to play Test cricket? Brat made a really good point on commentary earlier that they say they're all about free and easy and letting people do what they want. Well, it feels pretty bloody rigid to me. They're being told to play that way, or they don't fit into the mould.
But Ben Stokes doesn't have to. He's allowed to play normally.
Potentially, right. So I take your point, but nevertheless, there is this prevailing direction of travel, which is that you do, like you say, run to the danger. When the gutsy thing they did this morning was actually not try and score quite so heavily, because Stark was bowling thunderbolts at their head. Cummins was bowling from the correct end, in my view, from the pavilion end, and was building pressure as well with dot balls and making it as difficult as he could. Stark gets the early wicket of Ben Stokes, second ball of the day, caught in the cordon, lovely catch from Green, really good catch to his right. He's just a phenom in there. But after they're probably 1 over away from Stark being finished, and that's when Brook plays that shot. After reaching 50, he only made 4 runs in the first 40 minutes. Like, he wasn't trying to clobber the ball around. He was actually absorbing the pressure pretty well. He was hitting the helmet, he was hitting the index finger. Like, he'd gotten through the hard bit only to throw it all away in an effort to, I don't know, validate the style of play instead of trying to hurt Australia's bowlers. I think I made this point 2 days ago. Surely, or yesterday perhaps, surely with line out of the match and potentially the series, this was the day when you try and get Josh Hazlewood out of the match. Try and break an injury-prone guy. Try and make it that Pat Cummins has to back up day after day, the way that Anderson and Broad are at the moment, with a 3-day turnaround before Leeds. Like, there are options for them, taking the bigger picture, which could have done far more damage to them than trying to score it 4 and over, or whatever it worked out to be.
What was Bharat's observation that England have bowled 40% more overs than Australia? Their fast bowlers have done than Australia's have done over the 2 Test matches so far. So there's no work being put into the Australian bowlers, and if you're the English bowlers, you're back at the crease doing your job again. After you have a long bowling innings, then you have a short time off, and then you're back there. You spent half of that time batting anyway because everyone's got out. You know, if you're Stuart Broad, you're getting whacked in the face today. You're carrying a big bruise around on the side of the head. You've had that unpleasant experience of being out there. And I mean, and I saw some people saying, well, how else are you supposed to score off short pitch bowling if you don't attack it? Well, you know what else you can do is not play it and wait because nobody can bowl short forever. 3 fast bowlers can't continue barraging you for the entire day.
And remember, they don't want Green to bowl bulk overs, right?
Exactly.
Like the idea with Green is, because he didn't come with any bowling into the series because he was at the IPL, they don't want Green having to put a shift in. And today was a day they could have made it, and yesterday as well, of course, where one of them could have been bowled into the bloody ground ahead of Leeds next week. It's just lacking in all sort of long-term thinking. A test match inside a series of 5 tests in 6.5 weeks.
With a 3-day turnaround.
Before the next one. This was a prized opportunity. They may not get another opportunity quite like this one. They're out before the second you ball again.
Yep. So So the day starts with Stokes getting out to Stark, not trying anything extravagant, just trying to turn the ball away. Gets a kind of leading edge that ends up at gully. I know that sounds confusing, but he's trying
off the back of the bat, I reckon.
Yeah, it's almost off the back. It was off the back corner of the edge, I suppose. As he's trying to turn the ball to mid-wicket, I made the point on the OBO at the time, something about Stokes, Stark, Lords. Remember the World Cup match with the incredible Yorker that he bowls? You remember the 2015 with the obstructing the field dismissal? That was Stokes.
One of our first, probably our first viral video moment a long time ago.
That was, a lot of people had a lot of strong opinions on that at the time. It's still out. Sorry, it was out. But don't start again.
Google it.
Cameron Green taken any good catches lately? Let's get into it now. But yeah, there's something about those two and this venue that seems to make significant things happen. And there it was again. Stark hadn't had a good game with the ball thus far, but he's able to have that early strike, and that felt so important.
Good on him. Good on Stark. He probably went to bed last night thinking, gee, I've gone around a bit here. I've been picked ahead of Boland. I know the surface isn't as Brad climbs around behind me here. He's got the MCC laws of the game in his hand. Of course he does. You're probably thinking, if Stark doesn't bounce back well, then maybe his spot's in jeopardy again. It might be like 2019 where the perception was that he couldn't keep it tight enough to select him on more than one occasion. Maybe he ends up in that space again. Instead, like I say, nursery end, he's the only bowler from this end that's got it to really take off and did so repeatedly.
And got it to move a bit through the air and was a nasty customer. So yeah, he gets Brook as well with the one slapped away, and then Bairstow's kind of on his own at that point with the rest of them. Was Bairstow out before Brook?
He was, but Bairstow's batting 7 and has to do things that he otherwise wouldn't. Yep. It's a soft dismissal. It's one of many. Ollie Robinson batting
chip to mid-on.
The chip to mid-on when he was clearly going the aerial route. At that point, was that necessary? I don't know, but maybe it's informed by the fact that he's batting 2 spots too low at least. Well, not at least. He should be batting 5 like he was last year. Robinson, who was out there for 5 minutes and tried to play every shot known to man, he's batting 8 this week. It's a bit more responsibility on his shoulders, and he wasn't equal to
Broad
that.
batted 8 in this game, which
sorry,
Robinson 9, but which tells you how bad the tail is.
Right,
if Broad's coming in at 8, because then he gets clobbered, and a few balls later plays a huge sweep shot at Travis' head, and he's out LBW. And another not out for James Anderson, who I think might have the record. I think he's got the world record.
100, it's in the low 100s, I think.
Yeah, low 100s, 105 or something, not outs, all of the times when he could have gone on.
That got on a history show recently called Storytime. If you like what we do, you might like that as well.
You might. So they get wrapped up 91 short of Australia's first inning score, and then it's interesting, right? If you'd mapped this out time-wise for England, they couldn't have asked for anything better in this match. They got to bowl on morning 1 when the conditions should have suited them perfectly, and they got to bowl at this point when halfway through the day the clouds came in. It suddenly got stickier and darker and more difficult, and the ball was doing more than it was in the first innings, whether it was just better lengths for the bowlers or whether it was the ball itself. But Anderson's getting it to move around, Broad's getting it to seam. Really tough period of bowling, and Khawaja and Warner both found a method to get through it. Khawaja left the ball beautifully today. He was such a good judge. And when he was squared up a few times, but he had such soft hands at the ball that he plays it down. Like, he managed to find a way to survive. And Warner was going right across his stumps, even more exaggerated than I've seen him in the previous innings he's played in this series, especially when Broad was coming around the wicket. Warner's going to the point that leg stump is at risk if someone with a tail one in at the base of leg, a la sort of Josh Hazlewood and Jack Leach 4 years ago. But Warner's getting right across in order to try to guard against any sort of movement off the seam, or if it's jagging away, like, he can sort of get his whole body behind the line of the ball there and almost like rugby tackle it out of the game. And he manages to do that. They bat through 24 overs together, put on 61, and Warner gets out at that point. But again, it's like he's been doing through the series. he's done his job by that point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was either 61 or 63, wasn't it? It was 63. Okay. And I thought they were like, that was the time when England had another opportunity to get back in it, right? They're probably in a position in the game where a declaration, well, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but they might get declared on and set something, and we might come to that at the end of the show. But the better option is, of course, they go through Australia, and you're right. And probably the greatest compliment you can pay Khawaja, Khawaja, is that he looked like Chris Rogers at times there. The outside edges he was getting were dying well before the cordon. He was playing with such soft hands and sort of playing down on the ball. So Khawaja's in a beautiful rhythm at the moment. Warner's not in a beautiful rhythm, right? He's gutsing it out, and I think
He's
it's
in a hideous rhythm, and it's kind of good to watch. It's
it's
compelling.
it's all the more commendable that I think he's in the series. He made runs on day one here, made a contribution today. I think
he
even
made
though he's
more runs in his first 3 innings than he did in the series last time.
Right, well,
so
there you
he's,
go.
he's in there somewhere.
I just feel like I feel like he's in the series, and that they're going to keep picking him. And I wouldn't be surprised if his fortune changes. Or I say fortune, if he finds some form, because he's had to do it tough. A lot of players find form immediately after having a barren period. Well, he's having a not barren period necessarily. He's there and thereabouts, and I don't think that's an upside thing for Australia, considering where he came into this series from.
Or if he gets a day where it's like the one that Duckett and Crawley had, where you walk out to open, the sun's shining, the ball's not doing too much, and you're able to express yourself more fully. You know, if you think about the Shami Siraj sort of barrage he had to get through in the first innings at the Oval, what he had to get through to start the match at Edgbaston, and then again today, there's been a lot of hard work to do opening the batting. But Broad and Anderson looked much better with the ball through that spell as well, so it was a genuine contest. It's not like, it felt like on day one they bowled poorly, they gave enough release of pressure deliveries and so on. They didn't really do that here, but the Australian openers raised their games as well. So both, it was a genuinely good contest between, you know, the 36-year-old, the 36-year-old, the 37-year-old and the 41-year-old going toe-to-toe throughout that period.
And the lack of pace is a factor here too, right? So if you're an ageing batter, what do you not want? Mark Wood bowling bumpers, Jofra Archer like it was here 4 years ago. When it's a test of sort of nous and skill and so on, it feeds into the batters, I think, at the moment. And for Anderson's part, I feel so sorry for him. Having to bowl day after day after day. He had bare starts to the stumps today. I doubt he's ever had the keeper up to the stumps for him at Lords in his entire Test career. And that's probably a function of him being a little bit knackered.
Yep.
He's giving it his all. He picked up a wicket, albeit a slightly fortunate one when Labuschagne played a really bad shot to get caught at cover. But, I don't think Anderson's bowling poorly. He's not moving the ball an awful lot. It's the surface that's part of it. It's not the conditions that he's dominated over here in for literally 20 years. But he's still there and he's still giving it a red hot go, even though there are probably signs that he's not far away from the end. He's on 688 Test wickets. I wonder whether he makes 700. I can't imagine a world replays next week, because they're not going to have him playing 3 days after this with no rest, and it comes back to our original point, doesn't it? They're not batting in a way that supports their ageing bowlers.
Absolutely, yeah. If those are the bowlers you're going to pick, you need to think about them when you're batting as well. I can't believe, say from a purely parochial standpoint, surely they have to let him have a crack at 708 wickets and see if he could get past Shane Warne, so that an English player could be sitting at second on.
Well, it could be his last Lord's Test match. That's the other thing. No one's got more wickets at Lord's than Anderson, and Broad's in spot number 2. I can definitely imagine a world where, if this does end up going poorly for England this series, where they see that as the transition point.
So you talked about facing a bit of extra pace, and we talked about players getting out playing the pull shot. Josh Tongue comes on, a bit quicker, first short ball of the day. Khawaja plays the first pull shot of the day, hits it straight to mid-wicket, and he's dropped.
Yeah.
And that was Anderson at mid-wicket, where I'm sure he just didn't see it. You can see on the replay, he sort of has his hands up here, but he's lost the ball in the crowd because his head's kind of leaning away, like he knows it's coming towards him, but he doesn't know from where. He couldn't pick it out of the background.
Crocodile hands, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so he sort of tips it through, and it gets through him for 4 runs. So that chance goes begging, and I think more than Smith or Labuschagne in this series. If there's someone you don't want to drop as England, it's Khawaja.
And then Tongue gets through Warner with extra pace as well. So there's something in that. I'd be very surprised if Wood, if he's even close to fit. I think Wood plays next week, and I can see a world where Tongue plays as well, and they have a reconfigured attack.
So, and Labuschagne has his strokes of luck again. Might come back to that in the Hall of Fame, but he survives to make 30, makes a contribution again. He's eventually out, sort of accidentally dollying one up in the air, and they end up 2 down, 130 on the board. They're 221 in front, so that's still a long way. I mean, we've seen this England team chase 350 plus sort of totals last year. I think that'd be pretty hard to do on this pitch. I don't imagine that it's going to be a sort of tee off and make 350 on the last day kind of situation. But I think they'll bowl out Australia. I think it's sufficiently difficult to bat that they will get through. It's not like people are imagining Australia will plough on and make 500 and declare. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Probably not. Australia will play the game that England should be playing as far as putting overs into England and knowing that England are going to try and chase anything because Stokes is on the record and McCullum as well. We'll chase anything. We don't accept draws. Any target set we'll go for. Well, if you're Cummins and provided Australia can bat the majority of tomorrow, they might be ahead by 450 or something, which is, it's theoretically possible, but it's very improbable they'd win from there. That the right thing to do 99 times out of 100 there would be to bat for, if they're left 95 to 100 overs, to bat that out and secure the draw.
Yeah,
but
bat for a draw, you're 1-0 down, you've got 3 to play at home, you've got a good chance.
But they're not going to do that. They've told us they will fight and flame to the end, and if that means going 2-0 down, well, so be it, because the fans will be entertained, and evidently that's the most important thing.
And Nathan Lyon out of the rest of the match. They've been coy about whether he's out of the series. He's pretty obviously out of the series, but I suppose if it's
this morning,
maybe he could get back for the 5th test.
I think this morning the message was that they were going to tell us more when they got to the ground. Then we found out more because he was on crutches. So we didn't need to find out more. The story was there, but no, they didn't call it a tear. They called it a significant strain. Significant strain. So more information as it comes to hand or not, as the case might be. But Ollie Pope's the other injury news. I think going down on that shoulder again. He looked really bad.
Why is he fielding?
Well, my understanding, reading a couple of notes, is that the on-field umpires said that Pope would need to field in order to bat at 3 the second time. And now they've given a fresh external injury, means that he still will be able to bat number 3 in the 4th innings.
So now he's allowed to not field. So his shoulder's not so bad that he can't hit the ball. But yeah, I mean, he slid in with his feet to try to stop a ball because he wasn't going to go in hand.
He stopped one with his foot. He stopped one on the edge of the boundary rope at the old school fast bowler stuff.
But the next one slides in at extra cover to try to field with the feet, unorthodox, and literally just the arm trailing and catching the ground was enough to send him off. Anyway, that's the day's cricket. Let's get to the Hall of Fame. The Final Word Hall of Fame. It's when we discuss the most final word moments of the day, brought to you by Westfield. There's one in the east as well, don't be confused. Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City.
I always remember that song from the early 2000s. My brother used to play. It was a song about Westfield Parramatta.
Oh, was it?
I know this is not Parramatta. We're not in Western Sydney.
We're not.
We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto.
I'm just thinking, go Westfield, life is peaceful.
We're talking clothes with Westfield this week after the wedding that was had a couple of days ago. So
the wedding that was had, that's glorious passive tense for your own wedding.
Quite.
There was a wedding that was had by some person.
Charles Terrett, Scopes, NA Menswear, French Eye. You'll be turning heads, sports coats, like the one you had on the other day, trousers, suits. Moss Bros, who I got my tuxedo from, they were brilliant to deal with when getting things ready for the wedding. So untuck it if you want to, as you might imagine, untuck your shirt. There's a shop for that. That's probably up your alley, Jeff. So Google London. Westfield London. I'm struggling this week. Westfield London or Westfield Stratford City, or pop into the brand new EE Studio Experience store where you can test your driving skills on the Samsung racing rig for your chance to win a range of top Samsung prizes.
Wow.
That's not so much about clothes, but it is about Westfield.
It is about racing video games, which you need to wear clothes to play generally, otherwise the seat gets sticky. It's no good. Hall of Fame. What do you got? I'm thinking. Mine is this. Mine is that. I've been meaning to go back and check this to see if Marnus Labuschagne has reviewed every LBW in his career. I'm pretty sure he has. But today he finally got one. His lottery came up. He went, yep, I'll review that, and it was hitting him a millimetre outside the line of off stump, and he was reprieved.
Well, he shouldn't have been reprieved earlier, and it feeds directly into my anti-Hall of Fame. I don't like doing this too often, but Broad went the celeb appeal multiple times today, and you guys know how I feel about the celeb appeal. It's disrespectful to the umpire. It's not in keeping with the spirit of the appeal. I know, technically speaking, someone is asking the question because the cordon or the wicketkeeper is facing the central umpire. But I am increasingly sure that an umpire as experienced as Chris Gaffney, overseeing his 50th Test match this week, sees Broad run around like that and goes, no. And Broad doing that today,
fair enough.
I think it cost him a wicket because in the end, and I don't think, because Broad's not a reliable narrator on reviews for the most part. A good one yesterday, but for the most part, they're cynical about Broad and reviews, and why wouldn't they be? Stokes doesn't go upstairs, and that was hitting leg stump. That would have been Labuschagne gone with a lovely inducker. But Again, we've talked to the MCC about this before. It's not hard to fix. All you need to do is add to the existing law to say that the bowler must turn around.
Make it a dissent charge.
Well, it's easier than that. All you need to do is tweak the law to say the bowler must turn around, so that you can't have a situation where the bowler runs straight at the wicketkeeper.
Sure.
And as we've always said, the major issue there is that it'll cascade down to recreational cricket, and we know how hard it is to recruit umpires as it is. You don't want club cricketers on a Saturday starting with this, and they surely will because they see it on telly.
And Broad, I'm going to say 3 times today, Broad did the celebrate peel and took off to the slips, and 3 times it was not out, and 3 times they didn't review it.
Yeah.
And this was the 3rd of those. So it's not just that he's stuffing himself up with the umpires, it's with his own teammates as well, because it's boy who cried wolf stuff,
Absolutely.
right? He does that for the 3rd time that day, and everyone in the cordon's like, come off it, mate. Like, I'm sure it was high or going down level.
And I love his enthusiasm, right? Like, I love Stuart Broad as a character and as a bowler, and he's a lovely bloke as well. It's just that this is one thing that he does, which it is now counterproductive. It's reached a point where it's both ridiculous. It's always been ridiculous, but now it's also counterproductive, and he should just put it away. Why not just appeal?
And it's something where he says, I get caught up in the moment and I don't realise I'm doing it. You can't use that excuse again and again.
No.
You can use that excuse once or twice, and then you have to be aware of it. You can't claim that you're bowling and you're not aware of what's happening after. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to say that that's still the case when you've had your attention brought to it that many times. And it's not a difficult thing to address. Just show the respect for the game and the officials that everybody else does, and ask the umpire.
That's our Hall of Fame for Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City. Go and buy yourself some really nice clothes. Go to Charles Tyrwhitt. I've had their clothes before. They're delightful. Already mentioned Moss Bros. There are so many options. Google it, find it, do it.
All right, this has been The Final Word. Ashes Daily, Day 3 from Lords, Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins. If you like our work, patreon.com/The Final Word is where you can get more involved with what we're doing. Other than that, we might just see you on Day 4.
No.